ESPN. ESPN. It's like another four-letter word that some of us say when we get a little upset, right? I say this because I watched this morning's first take after the Cowboys and Steelers game. As you guys already know who I root for, the Star. But I'm a realistic Cowboy fan. I understand injuries. I understand expectations, sometimes just to not have any. So I went into that game with the understanding of I don't really know what's going to happen because the Cowboys were missing several significant pieces. One being arguably the best defensive player in the league. If he's not one, he's two or he's three. And that's one young lion, Micah Parsons. But not only missing Micah Parsons, you're missing Demarcus Lawrence, who is one of the best run-stopping defensive ends in the league, and has been a Pro Bowler, All-Star, and more in the league. You're also missing Mr. Pick Six himself, DaRon Bland. Now, he's been missing all season, but when you lose your top defenders, your DNs, like Micah, like Demarcus Lawrence, you need all hands on deck. So, and you also were missing Brandon Cooks, your number 2 receiver, who has been there, done that, won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady and the Patriots. And you had to also replace DaRon Bland's replacement was no longer even the rookie that we drafted out of Wake Forest, Carson. So number 27, forgive me for I'm not going to remember your name at the moment, played very well. But why did I say a 4-letter word? Because I watched this morning's show. Salute and shout out, by the way, to the facility for, even though Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy, can be very hard to watch because he's literally a NFL, he was a super player, Pro Bowl player. He's in the Hall of Fame. I would assume he's going to go in with the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't know if he'll make the actual Hall of Fame, but he was a great player in his day. But he's on television as more as a fan, and he's a fanning of the Eagles and less Bills, but more Eagles. But even him was giving credit where credit is due. So why do I say the 4-letter word again, known as ESPN? Dan Orlowski, Shannon Sharpe, Stephen A. Smith, and Molly Quorum. They make you want to use another 4-letter word. Because what I saw was Dak Prescott, which Shannon Sharpe rightfully said, which was correct, leading a great drive at the end. But unlike Shannon, Dan Orlowski said it was not impressive. This is the same guy that picked the Cowboys to lose against the Steelers. I need you to understand that and let that marinate. He picked them to lose. But a funny thing happened. The Dak night rose. This is Sports Bucks with Steve. Stay tuned.
It's a plane!
No, it's Super Roth!
Okay, a gimmicky opening for a commercial about Super Roth Universal Life Insurance, but I'm sure it got your attention. Now, what is a Super Roth, you ask? It's a permanent indexed universal life insurance that's totally liquid and easily accessible once it matures. Can be used to supplement retirement savings or a death benefit, or both. Has no income or contribution limit. Has no 5-year rule like Roth IRAs. Has no 10% penalty for accessing the funds before age 59 and a half. Oh, and the average historical returns are 5 to 7% annually. Tax-free. Super Roths also lock in gains, which means you don't lose your money when the market is down. Sounds incredible, right? Sounds super? Super Roths are the way of the future, specifically your future. To see if you qualify for a Super Roth, go online to thesuperroth.com.
Now, more than ever, all U.S. veterans need your help. If you have an old car, truck, or van, you can donate it today and help them. And they'll come pick it up for free. Plus, the money raised helps our nation's disabled veterans and their families. Call the number on your screen right now. Within a few days, we'll come and tow it away for free, running or not. And the proceeds greatly help U.S. veterans. So please call right now.
Let's enjoy the moment. Because when Shannon brought up how you a little bit different when you're talking about Dak and other situations, Dio, he's absolutely right.
He's absolutely incorrect.
He's not absolutely incorrect.
I never once came on
him against Dak Prescott is such, and the one who quells it is you. That is true. There are times where
even they had 6 points.
Listen, I'm not talking about today. I'm just talking about historically when it comes to quarterbacks. And when we go all in on a football, it's going to for a quarter on a particular Monday. It's usually Dan Orlovsky with his Orlovskis, okay? That's usually you. So don't stop and act like we
he's a good player.
I'm just saying, only thing I'm making a point is I'm saying there are times when you do turn around, Dan Orlovsky, and when everybody is throwing that venom and hostility in the direction of a quarterback, any quarterback. If there's a quarterback person if a quarterback out there is looking for somebody to come to their defense, it's usually you. That's all I'm saying.
There's no venom getting thrown at Dak.
In the end, last night, the man played when it counted. He was 0 for 3 in the red zone prior to the last one.
Dan's never been high on Dak.
He came through.
I've always thought Dak is a good player, but if we're gonna,
I didn't think he was great.
I just said the fumble recovery, the competitive moment, the awareness in that moment. Yes, it's great. And the fourth down
throws, he missed throws, he underthrew.
Of course, but if we're giving credit to someone for the win, it's the defense. If we're giving credit, it's how they slowed down a run game that hasn't been great this year.
The question wasn't who deserved the credit. The question was how much credit does Dak deserve?
So you heard Dan Orlovsky commenting about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys winning a game that they were the underdog in. This is a pattern of, I'm going to say ESPN, is they allow the uninformed fan to follow the nonsense. The uninformed fan will get on television and they will listen to Stephen A. Smith and they will say the Cowboy fan base is nauseating and they always we're gonna win the Super Bowl. We're gonna win the Super Bowl, even when we're 1-15 or whatever. And the reality is, it's simply not. I don't know who he's talking to, because most Cowboy fans are either loving the team or doubting the team. It's a 50-50, and especially my quarterback, Dakota Rain Prescott, is constantly doubted and the subject of ridicule. I want to share some stuff with you guys as you watch Dan Orlovsky or Olowski do his tape. Let me share something with you. I don't know if I can put it on the screen, but I'm going to try. Just talking about Dan Orlovsky. Now, that argument, when Stephen A was saying that Dan comes to the defense of quarterbacks, that's true in most cases, except Dak Prescott. When he says Dak Prescott is a good player, it's like, yeah, he's a good player. But let me show you, if I can, I'm going to see if I can share the whole entire screen, if it will allow me to do so. Let's try Windows. It's not really letting me do it for some crazy reason. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can share something. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. That looks crazy. I was looking for something in particular that I wanted to be able to share with you guys, this particular images. But I'll just put it to you this way, since you guys can't see it. But Dan Orlovsky had a quarterback power rankings entering into last season's playoffs. And last season's playoffs, this was his quarterback rankings that he had on the ESPN show Get Up. He had Patrick Mahomes at number 1. Joe Burrow, who has more equity from going to the Super Bowl and beating Patrick Mahomes than any quarterback I can ever remember. He has equity in that because he went to the Super Bowl. And this was I think this was in the 2023 season. But he also did some rankings this previous year as far as his top quarterbacks in the NFC. In the NFC, he also had put Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Mr. Turnover Machine himself, Justin Herbert, who has won nothing. But he gets all of this credit for being this great, great, great quarterback. Doesn't have a single playoff win under his record. Lamar Jackson, the now 2-time MVP, was behind Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes was the only one that had won at least 1 or 2 Super Bowls at this time. And then you had Tom Brady. This was the year Tom Brady retired, was number 7. So I'm going to go back to the history of Dan Orlovsky or Orlovsky hating on Dak Prescott. You guys ready for this? He had Daniel Jones ahead of Dak Prescott. This guy was a quarterback in the NFL. He was horrible, but he was a quarterback in the NFL. You would think he would at least understand and know who's good and who's really not. So this was going into, I believe, the final season, which was Brady's season, was the year before last, I believe. And so this was his list. Trevor Lawrence was 9. Geno Smith was 10. Kirk Cousins, 11. And Dak Prescott was 12. Brock Purdy and Skylar Thompson, who was leading the Miami Dolphins at the time into the playoffs against the Bills. And that's another thing. Look, I want you guys, this is not the show for it, but I want you to notice the wins that Josh Allen has in the playoffs, who those opposing quarterbacks have been. And then look at the losses and who those quarterbacks have been. He gets a lot of equity for being Superman and winning, but when he loses, not a lot said by most. Not a lot said. But he beat Skylar Thompson that year, by the way. So that's just one list. Now I want to show you, I believe in the NFC, it got worse with his ranking. As he had, and by the way, he loves Matthew Stafford. But outside of the 1 year where Matthew Stafford had a stacked team with the Los Angeles Rams, when he was the missing piece that they needed to kind of get him over the hump, he hasn't won anything in the playoffs. But because he won the Super Bowl with a stacked, loaded, money can buy a team with the Rams, they won the Super Bowl that year, defeating Joe Burrow that same season. that we're talking about, defeating Joe Burrow. After Brady was taken out of the way by Dak Prescott in his 5-touchdown game in Tampa Bay on a Monday night playoff game. We've all forgotten that. Well, Kirk Cousins, has he even won a playoff game? Kirk has won a playoff game. And Daniel Jones, the much maligned Daniel Jones, is somehow he had rated over Dak. So I'm showing you history of this man constantly hating on Dak Prescott. He went on to say that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys win against the Steelers last night, early this morning, for those who stayed up and we watched the whole thing, he was not impressed. And Shannon Sharpe, who came to Dak's defense, ironically, actually found it hard to believe what he was saying. Because Shannon even compared it to Mahomes, to Brady, to Montana. And what he said was actually correct. We often think that Tom Brady, when they make these comebacks, the legend is bigger than the actual performance at times. Why do I say that? Because for some reason, we believe that Brady is just taking these guys down the field in the Super Bowl and getting touchdowns. When the actuality is 2 of the Patriots Super Bowl championship wins came, one courtesy of the Panthers kicker kicking the ball out of bounds and them getting a shorter field. This is what happened. And Brady leading him into field goal range. And Adam Vinatieri, being the most clutched field goal kicker in postseason history, made 2 long field goals to win. He didn't lead them to touchdown drives. He led them to field goal drives. Now, the older Tom Brady, the more accomplished Tom Brady, led them to the 28-3 comeback against the Atlanta Falcons, where he did lead them to a touchdown drive to win the Super Bowl in overtime. And handing the ball off to Mr. James White of South Florida, Pasadena, I believe, St. Thomas Aquinas, high school fame. This is who he gave the ball to. And he ran it in. So now, was Dak Prescott's performance last night the same as leading a team on a Super Bowl ending drive like Patrick Mahomes did just last season against the San Francisco 49ers? No. But he led this team back to victory when he played. Well, matter of fact, let's take a look. I'm going to show you guys. You're not going to be able to see this because for some reason I haven't figured out how to share this stuff on my screen today, and I'm not going to keep worrying about it. But I want to share something with you guys. Here is a little bit of history or fact about what Dan Orlowski or Olowski is doing. So this was by Robert Barr, 6725 on X. He actually made a great comparison analogy. Well, not even analogy. He just showed the actual facts about how Dan downplaying what Dallas accomplished is absolutely ludicrous. And it just proves that if you guys are falling for the banana in the tailpipe, if you're believing ESPN's narratives and you're listening to Stephen A. Smith talk about how he can't stand these Cowboys, he's not being honest. He does it because you're going to fall for it. Because you who don't like the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are always on TV, and because the Cowboys has the biggest fan base, so your reaction, because maybe you're in a small market team or your team never wins, is to hate the Cowboys. So you'll listen to him saying, every Cowboy fan saying we're going to the Super Bowl. Here's the reality. Fans is short for fanatical. So every fan base hopes their team has a chance every year to win. Newsflash. We hope our team has a chance to win. And when you have a team last season that had 7, 8 all pros, you hope that they would to that team so that they would be in a position to win it all. Now, Cowboy fans, we're the only fan base that can't celebrate a win. But we have to hear about our losses like you wouldn't believe. They will tell you that it's doom or gloom if the Cowboys would have went into Pittsburgh and lost with a depleted roster with injuries to stars. But at a game where we were not favored to win, we're going to lose this game to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, but yet Dallas comes back because the Dak night rolls. Dak Prescott. When it mattered, there were two bad interceptions. One looks like him and CD were not on the same page, and he threw the ball directly to the Steelers' corner. I don't know why they're still having these issues. I don't know if it's a training camp or just you guys have been playing together long enough where this shouldn't be still happening. That's a whole other issue that needs to get fixed. But that's a miscommunication interception. The other one where he tries to hit Jalen, he overthrows it. It was a bad throw. That was a terrible pass. Then he's sacked. All of this is happening. Well, that didn't happen in the red zone, but the turnover, the interception, and the fumble where J.J. Watt and created the fumble, that can't happen because Dak held the ball too long, and he had Jason Ferguson in the flats wide open. He didn't throw the ball to him, but he held the ball too long. So that was a mistake. But if you look at what Dak was doing offensively when they didn't turn the ball over, let's compare where Dan O'Lousy says that we didn't do anything. If they hadn't turned the ball over, Dallas might have been able to score 38, 35 against the Steelers. So let's look at it. Pittsburgh's defense, which was hailed all season, all along how good they were, their first 5 games, Atlanta had 295 total yards. This is the same Atlanta team that Dan says Dallas is going to lose to. Is better than us. Let's look at that with Kirk Cousins, because he also says Kirk Cousins is higher rated and a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. The Kirk Cousins who has one playoff win, maybe, who was never ready for prime time. Okay. Denver, 295 total yards. Los Angeles Chargers and your favorite, Justin Herbert, had 168 total yards against the Steelers defense. Justin Herbert, who you swear is better than Dak Prescott. Indianapolis, where they lost, had 358 total yards behind Joe Flacco and the often injured Anthony Richardson. Dallas had 445 total yards. So the offense was bad, Dan? It was all defense, Dan? Or was it the turnovers that allowed them to stay in the game? So Rex Ryan, who I'm getting ready to play that video, courtesy of ESPN, fair use, he said if it was not for the turnovers, now this is Rex Ryan, been in the NFL for years, former head coach of the New York Jets, one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL that should be a D coordinator. He said if it wasn't for the turnovers, this was a beatdown against one of the best, if not the best, defenses in football. This is what Rex said. This is what Rex said. So when we talk about Dak Prescott, Ed Werder had this to say. He said last night, Dak Prescott, the highest paid player in the NFL, prevailed in the final minutes against a Steelers defense that has the highest payroll in the NFL on their field. Those who wanted to witness Prescott carry his team saw it, even overcoming 3 turnovers of his own without Brandon Cooks, our number 2 wide receiver, and Tyler Guyton, our starting left tackle, who probably need to have a conversation about moving him to right tackle to replace Terrence. Nothing about him is steel. He's the man of tinfoil at right tackle. and missing on the defensive side of the ball, which helps the offense because if your defense is getting these stops and getting turnovers, making other plays, it's offense, defense, complementary football. And Tyler Smith had excellent work when he moved over the left tackle, which is he's that guy when it comes to that. But let me share you this video, courtesy of ESPN, where Rex Ryan is actually echoing the same sentiments that I was just stating.
Every top line take you had for us in our meeting this morning was what?
Dallas beat the hell out of them. And I know nobody's going to say that. No, they did. And nobody's been more critical of their defense than me.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a great plan. Mike Zimmer, I got to give him credit. All right, especially containing the quarterback as well as stopping the run. Like I thought Pittsburgh was going to run the ball down their throat. Never happened. And so you got to give them credit. I think that was the most impressive thing. And then offensively as well, that this team, man, I mean, they had 2-to-1 yardage advantage.
Mm-hmm.
They put up 100 extra yards over anybody that Pittsburgh's played this year. So to me, I thought they beat the hell out of them. Now, it doesn't help when you turn the ball over 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why this was a game.
So it doesn't help when you turn the ball over 3 times. Of course it does. Of course it doesn't help. And Rex is 1,000% right when he says what he says. But this is what we're talking about. So when you look at the numbers, let me go be more specific as far as the numbers. Dallas had 445 total yards compared to the Steelers, 226 total yards. With backup defenders and people like Tyrus Wheat, who was a practice squad guy who got called up because of the injuries, to Micah Parsons, Demarcus Lawrence, Sam Williams, who was a second-round pick out of Ole Miss, who would have been in the rotation as the third DN, along with this kid, Marshawn Nealon, who now I believe has a meniscus tear, and he'll be out for some number of weeks. Dallas has, those would have been your 4 primary defensive ends, which were all, I think, pretty good players. So now you're replacing a superstar in Micah Parsons, another star in Demarcus Lawrence, and you're replacing them with who? Chauncey Golston and Tyrus Wheat? Because Nealon is gone. Now you have to bring up Lawson to make sure he's playing. I know he played last night, this morning. So are you going to bring in DJ Henry, who you just got off the practice squad? So this is what this team, when they said all in, we as Cowboy fans, we're not convinced you're all in. Yes, it's a good win. We're very happy about the road win. But we got next week with Detroit coming, who is well rested, coming off of an NFL courtesy bye, right in time to come into Dallas. Dallas also discovered a running game. Dak had 336 yards of passing. We had 109 rushing yards against 92 for the Steelers. We averaged 5.9 yards per play. Dallas had 25 first downs versus 17 for the Steelers. And if it wasn't, and we had 2 sacks allowed where we sacked the Pittsburgh with those guys, that the backups 3 times. We punted only once. The Steelers punted 5 times. We had 11 penalties, which continues to be an issue. Some of them were earned, some of them were not. And the Steelers ended up with 8 for 50 yards. We had 11 penalties for 87 yards. Time of possession was 32 minutes compared to 27 for the Steelers. Now, the thing I want to make also note of, and I'm not alone. Louis Riddick made a great point on one of his, and he tends to be the one guy that is like, you know what? I'm not participating in this foolishness. I'm gonna keep my integrity, and I'm gonna call it how I see it. So Louis, that's why you don't see him that much on First Take, also, by the way, because First Take is a circus. So they have to play the role of Stephen A. Smith. You ever notice when Stephen A. Smith is talking, he could be talking about something, yes, and we in all seriousness, and we have to make sure that we are getting things in order. And luckily that we did get the Mother's Day flowers that came in from my mom, and then everything was good. And my sister, all of a sudden, he just loses it. It's like more cute, Steve Yell. Stephen A. yelled for no reason. This is what we're talking about. And then Dan Olausi, who is famous for running out of the back of the end zone with nobody hardly that close to him, having no awareness, he plays the role of troll and hater of the Cowboys. But Stephen A. feels more, it feels more acting. It feels more, I'm doing this because I know this gets me ratings. Dan feels more genuinely dislike and disdain for the Cowboys and hate. So he's not being authentic. He's not being genuine in his reporting. And that is why he's unwatchable. I use the video because just so I can make my video, but I tend to have to turn the channel when he comes on because you're going to watch him just bloviate about all these other quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, oh, how he loves them. Aaron Rodgers, oh, how he loves them. Did you watch Aaron Rodgers play Sunday morning in London? Did you watch that game? The amount of interceptions he threw? He cost the Jets the game. The Jets defense did well enough to win that football game. Aaron Rodgers, for the second week in a row, didn't get it done. He didn't get it done. Brian Flores had a great game plan, the Minnesota Vikings coordinator, but Aaron Rodgers didn't play well. That's what happened. But I want to say this. Louis Riddick, who is more informed and a former pro player, but he played in the secondary, is a guy that calls it how he sees it. He says this: why do we keep attaching everything that happens with Dallas simply to Dak Prescott? He's not 53 guys wrapped in one. And he's right. Because the Cowboys didn't go out and get a great running back. Rico Dowdle had a pretty good game because maybe they stuck to the run game and had more of a better mix. But you still have a guy on your practice squad for some reason you haven't called up in Dalvin Cook. We don't know what Dalvin Cook can do. We know what Ezekiel Elliott can do now. And unfortunately, better days are behind Zeke. They're behind him. He looks slow. He's plodding. He even looked like he was injured before the game with his shoulder. So, better days. Zeke, love to see him get 10,000 yards. I don't think it's going to happen at this point, just based on the play that we've seen, from Zeke. So the Dak night rises. And finally, we got a much-needed tough win on the road. And the schedule is not easy. Dallas has the Lions. We get a bye week. We go to the 49ers. Why do we keep going to San Francisco? Why can't they come to Dallas? I don't understand that. And then I believe we have either the Eagles, the Commanders, who are dangerous with Jaden Daniels. He's the real deal. He is the real deal. Really, really good quarterback. The guy is – it's pretty scary. It's pretty scary to see that get it right at quarterback. Dan Quinn may just have something in Washington, man, with the Commanders. After he sabotaged us in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I had to say it. Listen. This is another Sports Bucks with Steve. We get ready to take this thing out of here, though. But shout out to the Dallas Cowboys for beating one of their biggest rivals on the road in a hostile environment, and Dak Prescott getting it done. And shout out to Jalen Tolbert, who hurt his lower region, but was still able to come in on the crossing route and make the big play to secure the bags and win the game. Maybe Dallas has found Jalen Tolbert as the new number 2 receiver. We got to get Ryan Flournoy involved in this game somehow. He is a big play guy, Des Bryant-esque or light right now. We got to get him involved in the offense. So, it's a Sports Box with Steve. Thank you for listening, for tuning in. And on that note, see you when I see you. Be safe. God bless. Please like and subscribe. Share our videos. We're over 10,000 now. I so appreciate everybody who's been doing so. But please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithms. But, and we do have, I don't have it today. I'm going to try to bring it on my next video. we do have a new sponsor called Pepe's Paws. Pepe's Paws, PEPPIS.com. It's a great service, a televet service that offers pet insurance. It's a complete bundle of services, concierge. There's like a discount or like a year or subscription to dog TV, a wellness program. It's really, really a really cool thing. And they have organic supplemental products on there as well. But it's called Pepe'sPaws.com. I'll have the video next week. I'm going to try to do a video next week. It's just been so busy when I come back from vacation. But Pepe'sPaws.com, PEPPIS.com. You know, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Well, never mind. I won't do it this week. But Pepe'sPaws.com is the new televet service that also features pet insurance, dog treats, toys, and all kind of other stuff you can buy for dogs and cats. So we're not leaving out the cats. But check that out. And that being said, we'll see you next week. Again, stay safe, and the dark night rises. Here we go.